Mercy ante Dios is a story that really is going to take some time to unfold. We've barely even started the adventure, and yet there's so much to tell. This arc was, for the most part, a glorified prologue for the entirety of what's to come. So if your main issues are the lack of a motive or world building, you can rest easy. Arc 2 is right around the corner. There isn't much more to be said, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The story of Mercy ante Dios, of course, does not start with the opening to Session 1. No, it starts with each person's individual lore. If we wanted to do this in chronological order, I'd perhaps start with Judah Umbra's lore. But I won't. No, instead I'll start with what is surely the absolute peak of Mercy ante Dios's lore. Arvid Vane. Arvid Vane was born in this little place here, Silch. Arvid Vane spent most of his childhood days being almost bullied by his father, up until he found a seemingly ancient altar beneath his hometown. The altar called out to Arvid, in which he was offered power through the Blade of Vigor, at a cost of a sacrifice, in which Arvid chose his father, Stephen. This is likely an effect of the harsh teaching Stephen imposed onto his son, which in turn made Arvid spiteful of his father. After gaining the power from the sacrifice, Arvid begins slowly shifting into a far more hate-filled man. After sacrificing his humanity for power, he begins to press this onto other people around him. His childhood sweetheart and best friend, then his family. All whilst his father seemingly becomes harsher on him. This reckless rage eventually culminates to a violent outburst as Silch goes up in flames. Arvid Vane desperately fends off the incoming onslaught until he is directly stopped in his tracks by a man known as Alastor, who claims to be his cousin. It's only after Alastor kills Arvid's father that Arvid begins to realize what the sacrifice he made has caused, and after taking on a monstrous form to kill, finally taking down Alastor, he flees his hometown and sacrifices his remaining connections to avoid bringing any more harm to others, especially those around him who he loves. The first session begins about 4 months after Arvid Vane joins the ranks of Jin's army, as to position himself away from the rest of his loved ones. This is then followed by Judah and Genghis also assimilating within their ranks. The Battle of Jin's is incredibly important to the overall storyline of Mercy ante Dios, so I'll go through it in its entirety. The Battle of Jin's was known as the War with No Horses. This is because Solist managed to invade the city limits without one single soldier riding on horseback. Yet, many continue to state through the intro of the session that this was the war of many dying horses. The trees are burning, the leaves are fading, and the sky is falling. Everything has an orange glint to it, as if the ferryman of death was holding a lantern before it all. There are mothers clinging to their dead, burning children amongst the great flames that ravage the land before you. Their fingers loosen their grip as the last bits of life fade away, selfishly trying to cling on to the lives that have long since passed. But truly, who could ever come to blame them? There is so world here left for them, not among the boiling rivers, heated from the artificial flames being conjured within the skeleton of what used to be the city. The soldiers stand guard. Their alignments do not face a reason of care in this moment, for in war it is only you and the war. There is no humanity in anything but yourself. When you sit at the brink of a death, and it poses a question. Are we as humans truly born evil? Or are some simply born with the intent to kill? Or is it somehow that despite following the exact same paths, oneself may simply crave the taste of blood? We shun those who say otherwise, saying it causes nothing but non-believers to turn a blind eye. But now, as the buildings around you crumble into nothing but dust, as roof tiles and floorboards mix upon the same mismatched puzzle, you begin to question it. This will go down as the war with no horses, the first siege of its kind. A blind attack going so unnoticed it makes you question where the line is drawn between war and massacre. Yet, without there being a single horse, no, not one, there are so many dead horses laying beneath your feet. The party of Jinn soldiers then proceeds to locate what appears to be a grandma and a young knight, along with some troubling imagery relating to the grandma via an old amulet that Arvid finds in a shack. A family portrait ripped in half. The only half that remains contains an elderly lady. She seems to loom over what looks like her grandson, her fingernails so long they wrap completely around her shoulder. There's a small note left inside besides the portrait. It reads, "My dearest creation, oh how I hope you stay this length forever. I dread the day for when you grow larger than my nails."
Jesus fuck.
This grandma's story stretches across the whole first session. At first, she simply requests that the party locate her children. The party fails to find any leads, up until a troubling sight at a sewer grate. There is nothing else alive here except for a single man being pushed up against the sewer grate.
I want to walk up to the man. Try it.
He turns his head up to face you. A long curled nail is shoved down through his throat, preventing him from speaking many words.
I'm gonna pull him out of the drain.
Mama
Oh shit.
never taught me how to swim. She saw my legs, said I was tall enough to stand in any sea. I miss when I could stand.
This guy's fucked up, bro.
Using context clues given to the party throughout their adventure, we can suffice I suppose, that this woman was clearly unwell mentally. She was also incredibly self-conscious of her height, and to make up for it, she decided to grow out her nails to a rather long length. It appears sometime before the invasion she lost it and went after her grandchildren, then asking for them to be returned to her for reasons that were never tied up due to choices the party made during their time in Jinn's. There is a second tale that follows the Jinn's party, and rather a far more important one. However, it's important to keep both of these in their own mind when we delve into the themes of this arc later on. The second tale is that of a young knight, a father. Upon first speaking to him, he is harsh towards the party and continuously trails off, swearing down the name of someone he refers to as a bitch. This is given more context after the party stumbles upon a note blowing in the wind. Which now no longer stand.
I'm gonna pick it up and open it.
Unraveling it reveals a letter written from wife to husband. It reads in very awful handwriting, covered in wet liquid. "Sorry, honey. I've left the kids with you. You need to grow up and start focusing on more than just yourself. Your house and all these stupid ornaments you keep lying around. You're willing to risk my life and the kids over stupid fucking heirlooms. How selfish can you be? There appears to be a stamp in the bottom left corner, but half of it has been torn off.
Judah, could you hold on to that, please?
Again, using context clues given to the party, we can suffice the tale of a man who kept many trinkets by his side. This man, of course, being the young knight from earlier. He greatly cared for these heirlooms and would sometimes prioritize them over other things. He was obsessed by the memories of the dead that they posed to represent. This, of course, enraged the woman in this relationship, who would constantly have to usher him to prioritize the kids over his obsession with those he lost. This then resulted in the kids being caught in a crossfire and then being abandoned. The wife left as to force the husband to finally take a stand for himself for once, whilst the husband still did not have the will to do it himself, leaving the kids alone, abandoned. So what became of the kids?
Judah, take a look inside this building with me.
I don't think I want to.
A massive, fleshy organism begins to flood out of one of the nearby buildings. It has several heads of different disfigured children, and it has a long scar running down its belly. A chain made of several trinkets that seems to have no value at all is wrapped around its neck. The children scream in pain as they spot you, turning themselves around and charging at you.
What the fuck? What is this foul creature?
Oh no!
Mommy, come back! Daddy left us! We don't want the trinkets! They hurt us!
What the fuck is... I think you found your children, Genghis.
Thing.
I think you found your children, Genghis.
Everybody roll initiative. These mutations were later discovered to be caused by Cleve's link, which means that the father did eventually give up his trinkets, but in doing so, abandoned his kids as well. Or, alternatively, he could have simply abandoned the kids and instructed that they take care of his trinkets for him, protecting them with their lives. Either way, this led Cleve to discovering them and mutating them into these flesh-like beasts. What were Cleve's intentions behind doing this, you may ask? A baby is left under all the rubble that surrounds it. Its wails muffled by the crackling of fire and the many layers of bricks that consume its presence. Its right eye is the size of half its face, and along its waist is a black, throbbing tumor that looks as if it's eating away the child. The only thing stopping it from consuming him is a mound of overgrown flesh that's formed an unnatural wall around it. Next to the child lies a paper note. It reads simply, "Let the spinning metals replace his ears, let the radios take his heart, build a cage of rocks for his creation. Please, just fill him with winding machinery." Cleve had a child. The baby is also involved in the final battle against him as he mutates the baby to get it to run away, evacuating the battle safely. Judah also located an engraved cleaver with the words, "Forever selfish. I'm sorry, I can't let your innocence die out so soon," engraved on its side. So it's clear that Cleve couldn't allow the children to die out. He posed them as too innocent. Now, whilst I would love nothing more than to delve into what all this means, including the bits about the grandma, I'm afraid that would be spoiling the plot of the next two arcs, so alas, my lips are sealed. However, this will not stop you from theorizing yourself. The last things to mention about this first session would be the battle between White and the Warhorse, and the Vedeti, both of which will be further explored next arc, so again, my lips are sealed. Now, back to the story. We see Arvid faced with yet another burning home. However, this time it's different. This time it wasn't his fault. he can actually help for once. Because of this, the Arvid we see in the first session is incredibly courageous and confident. However, this slowly begins to break down only a session and a half later. But we'll get to that. First, in between the exit of Jin's and the entrance of Solist, we are introduced to another vital character, Ash Tree, the boy who has only known war. A polar opposite to Arvid in the sense that Arvid has done all he can to run away from his challenges, whilst Ash has been forced into every single challenge imaginable since birth. And we can see this reflected in their personalities too. Arvid is confident yet hard-headed, whilst Ash is completely and utterly insane, yet still unsure of himself. However, thankfully, the arc shoots right back up in ratings as soon as we get to the third session, and we are introduced to the story of Meist, through family beats in a camp, and we come to understand the troubled situation of this child. In the third session, the party is introduced to the city of Solist. From there, you idiots got yourselves captured and got the first look at Meist and the powers of the hum. The machine he uses is a smaller scale version of such, which you are briefly transported into his pocket dimension for a few moments, before you blow yourselves out of a fucking building, and are then saved by the odd doctor who takes you in and keeps you safe up until the fourth session. Now, the fourth session is when we come to understand the power of the hum and see its effects. At the beginning, we are shown a look at just how bad this perfect world would really look. We are then shown the almost complete showcase of Meist's upbringing. Two parents sit over the machine. It sparks with energy as they yell. A power rig. It's used to sell and convert energy. It's also used to store it. Where they're getting the energy to sell is uncertain. What the fuck are you doing, you useless fuck? Don't you see him? He sits in his room, does jack shit, while we pay to live in his stupid fucking cove. The man, more calm than his wife, seemingly. And so do his brothers. But I don't see you hitting them with metal pipes, breaking their fucking fingers. I don't see their blood on the walls. They can't make us shit. They're useless. He isn't. He could be doing so much, but instead he's still a fucking child. He can't even write. Goodness fucking sake. And you want him to power the whole fucking city with his magic hands? Yeah? So you won't let him? You won't let him save us from these slums? I won't let him get abused. That's what. He's a child and has a right to grow up how he wants to. And that is no say of ours. I could be off dating some rich man up in the upper limits, but I decided to go with my heart, to trust you, and this is where you've led me. Don't guilt trip me. Last time I checked, you're as useless of a bitch as you claim our son to be. My son. I'm sorry? You can hear a child, a young boy, creep around the corner. Intrigued by his parents yelling, he turns his head around. You can see his young, shaky eyes, the mix between curiosity and fear that all children seem to share. His eyes widen, his pupils expand. The father's head, a red river across the side of the machine. The wife, hand, still wrapped around the handle of a blade. The kid begins to scream. He turns to run, but the mother reaches the back of his tight-knit collar. He's pulled back into her as she wraps her hands around him and lifts him up. The kid kicks and screams, wailing, tears rolling down his eyes. He sobs as the mother forces his hands onto the wire around the machine, and it begins to spark as the child sobs. Now listen, son. Listen carefully. You're going to power the whole city for Mummy and her new daddy, so we can live in a big house at the center of town. The child sobs as the machine sparks up, the mum taking 3 steps back in fear. The machine erupts into sparks and tangles of lightning. The kid screams, but he can't let go, his body sending waves of power with the mechanics of the churning machine. His hands, then arms, begin to turn black, the sheer heat from the lightning burning every inch of his flesh to pieces as his body flushes even more power into the machine. The mother runs back to the door, leaving the kid trapped, sparking and burning. She unlocks it and swings it open into a tall, 6-foot, white-suited man. He stands proudly, a rich smile and a gold necklace displaying his wealth. And suddenly together, they're sitting, arm in arm, and they're watching their kid burn. And now suddenly, it's just the kid, a white expanse, and his dad. After this, Arvid, Judah, Genghis, and Ash engaged in battle with Meist. Arvid is enraged by how Meist turned out from his childhood, whilst Ash almost feels sorry, seeing himself within Meist. However, he also ends out in the same boat as Arvid, as Ash knows he's been through it, almost worse than Meist, yet was able to push past it and never stooped to that low. This fight is also when Judah unlocked his link. And a coin appears in your hands. The coin turns. You can sense it. The connection has been made. You can feel the soul of Meist wrapped around the bed of something. Something dark. Something brewing. Judah! Your mind will be fried. I must protect your mind. The voices, blood. The voices, blood. The voices. Awake, damned spirit, the one entangled in the chains of self-pity and guilt. Angels have lost their wings over less. However, it seems tonight is the night. Good luck, child of a lost mind, or a mind of a lost child. That is for you to decide. You all bear witness to the final reckoning of Judah's forged past, the one who stole it all and fed the corpse of the child to its father. A being digs its way out of Judah's spine. It rips and tears its way through skin and flesh like a nightmarish ghoul. Iron upon steel comes sliding from his back. As his hunch worsens, you can hear the tears of the spine like a cursed xylophone as the creature of his voices are born to see the light of the waking realm. Jenna! I love you! You watch as a creature of pure hell and damnation sprints towards Meist, a cross ironed to its back, its arms outstretched, its build whacked. His ribcage sticks out from his being, his hair bald at the top with long, dead grey running down to the sides, and his face is nothing a human could ever possibly be born to be. It grabs around my neck. What? No, you don't exist in this dimension. I exist in yours. You watch as a massive iron cross nails Meist to the floor. As this voice claws at Meist, tearing his chest open, it begins to devour him like some unholy spirit. Meist, desperate to fight back, sends a shockwave from the hook on his back forwards like a spear of light, sending the voice flying up into the sky, piercing through him tenfold, frying him into pieces. I must protect Judah! It does not exist to be harmed. It exists to serve. its mouth wrapped around the head of Meist as it begins to bite down on his neck. Judah's eyes roll back, completely white in color. Judah almost possessed it seems, as this creature of nothingness devours Meist whole. Reality begins shifting away. Reality's collapsing. Where are you? Where has he brought you? On the other end of the session, Dante and Sordidus met up with an ex-juicer and decided to raid the main headquarters of the Hum, where they got captured, and this opens up to Session 5. The first half of Session 5 is reasonably slow, but the second contains arguably the most important moment of the entire arc. Shortly after Arvid, Genghis, Ash, and Judah escape from a juicer ambush, they stumble across a group of shattered civilians of Solist. Arvid, throughout the past 2 sessions, has been barely holding himself together, time after time being reminded of his sacrifices, and now he has brought harm to the people around him once again. Not just his party, but this entire nation. He tries to keep his composure, but as the party finds themselves surrounded by constant reminders of Arvid's past and his sacrifices, he snaps.
So he's just gonna stand there, not do anything.
And Arvid, what do you expect them to do? Have a little empathy. I may be insane, but I can empathize
Ash,
with them.
you
I'm
have
trying to say.
no empathy.
He's
Kill a
I
man.
understand what they're going through, Arvid. You are so brain dead. Do you not understand? That
Ash,
is
you
the-
are no one to talk.
And no, but like you're saying, oh, stand up and do something. What do you expect them to do, Arvid?
If they want to kill themselves so bad, why don't they just do it? Fucking,
Jesus, oh,
hurting
that's
Arvid.
horrible.
I've had enough of seeing that these fucking men, civilians, just stand there crying like fucking idiots. They all teamed up and did something. Something would fucking happen.
Nothing
No.
would happen. We are probably the strongest people who are still civilians, and we are nothing compared to the
Ash,
warhorse.
Numbers, Ash. The amount of people in this
And what
place.
if I had 1,000,000 men, million normal civilians, and I went up against the exploited, and it would all be my fault?
They can all do their own part, Ash. They can do their own part.
And what
None of
is
them
a
can-
million to a
I
god?
hope some soulless people can hear what I'm saying. They're all just fucking cowering. Fucking.
Because there is nothing else to do. You expect
Like,
you
they
expect
call
the entire
themselves
city to get
soulless men.
along.
Brave.
Arvid, you say it like you're fighting for anyone but yourself.
So, you know,
All you damn well do. You're just, I have to go kill the warhorse. I have to go kill the warhorse.
Ash, you have no remorse. You do the most outlandish shit, and then you say that, oh, I'm doing something bad. Look at yourself, you
Because
disgusting.
at least I have
Ash
the
and fucking
decency
creature.
to leave these people alone to grieve. Every single person I've killed, they've been, well, maybe I'm a little insane, but have a little decency.
You don't
have
know
a little
nothing
heart.
about me, Ash. You know nothing about me.
And I don't need to
Fuck.
to know that you're being an asshole.
An asshole. Ash, we know nothing about you. You keep yourself secret from all of us, and you follow us, and you do the most random things, getting us fucked, increasing the chances of us getting fucked up. And what? For what? You're an idiot.
You're
You're a
nothing.
boy. You're a boy, Ash. And I'm the man here, the man that will kill the warhorse. And you'll just be some sidekick, some boy that followed.
You have so much ambition. But you have ambition to the point you are delusional.
Delusion. Me delusion. Who was the one that was chained to a fucking tree in the middle of a forest? Disgusting. Disgusting fucking creature. kill you at some.
You're gonna go kill.
Yeah.
How about it, Arvid? Because I won't be the first. I won't be the last. How many innocents will you slaughter in your quest for heroism, saying, "Oh, I'm saving you. Oh, I'm saving you." Are you saving these people?
Do something, Ash. You've done nothing but do disgusting acts to people. What happened to that man before you poked his fucking eyes out? He could have started a new life somewhere. Even though his legs are fucked up, he could have done something.
I should have killed him. Because why let him live in misery watching his 4 children burn in front of him?
Okay, Ash, kill everyone around us. Kill every person that is standing around us. Do it now. Why do you have to watch them grieve? Do it. Go. Okay, see?
So, fuck you, Arvid. Go
Yeah?
kill yourself.
Yeah. Right. No worries, Ash. Genghis, are you coming with me or not?
Arvid is overcome by grief. He sees himself in these people who stand around and do nothing. Not only that, but he feels responsible for putting them in their place to begin with. So he begs and yells for them to stand up and do something, to fight. But they don't. Ash feels remorse. He too relates to them, but he knows the pain of grieving and he knows how they feel. All he can do is empathize, whilst Arvid becomes a cesspit of guilt and misery. This follows Arvid even after Mike's defeat, and they approach the end of the arc. Arvid begins to brush past everything. He waddles into homes, only to become overcome by more and more guilt. He sees a family of an old man and his children. He's reminded of the fate that befell the young knight in the city, and again blames himself. He becomes aggressive to everything around him, up until it all comes crashing down. The war strikes during the final battle, and he sees that now, along with the city, his party, the people he's befriended over this short time, they too will suffer a fate that he can only blame himself for. And so he makes one final sacrifice. He cannot bear the pain of being a witness to death any longer. And so he makes the final sacrifice and gives up his humanity.
What? What has become of me? How can I tell myself to continue to breathe? Why do I allow my heart to keep pumping? I did it all. Arvid Vane should never have lived or been born. The biggest disgrace to my lineage. I admit my wrongs. I have sinned, Father, I have sinned. It was never Alistair that murdered your beloved heart. It was I. I dare not speak my name, for the sound of it shivers me with disgust and cringe. My beautiful mother, who only gave me love, lies at home, her heart as black and shriveled as a sun-dried raisin. I've abandoned her. And my love, my beautiful Charlotte, the light in the sky, the hope of my world, I left her to the heart of the fires to cry. I left it all, everything my father did for refuge in my beautiful home went to waste. Stephen Vane died in my arms, never able to see me, marry, or fulfill my life. And so, now there is only one solution that I deserve. I loathe what I've done. Therefore, just as I've done before to another, I must sacrifice myself.
You see, Arvid Vane is a curious case. He clutches his sword, blood and sweat dripping down from his forehead and onto the floor. A man caught up in his own self-pity, self-hatred. A man with nowhere to go, and the only home is one he rebukes. Not for any other reason than guilt. You watch as Arvid lets out a bellowing roar. His face opens up into 3 slabs of skin, revealing several hundred rows of teeth underneath. His arms extend outwards, his nails grow impossibly long. Arvid Vane is no longer Arvid Vane. Arvid Vane is a beast of his own creation, his guilt and pity curled up into something monstrous. He runs forwards, diving into the warhorse, taking bites upon bites of flesh out of his side as he swings around the blade of vigor desperately, the mark of war on his chest and on his blade glowing a disgusting red. He desperately tries to eat away at him. He guts at his side, attempting to tear him to shreds. The warhorse, while semi-injured, large deep wounds from his relentless gnashing, simply kicks him away. And in a moment, the monster in which was Arvid Vane turns to face you. Former allies. This is no longer Arvid Vane. Arvid Vane has sacrificed himself, and for no other reason than for his own self-guilt. He is driven by nothing. He is no longer a man. He is worthless. He runs one last time into the side of the warhorse, tearing away at him, before the warhorse barely manages to get him off him, blood dripping from his mouth. Arvid Vane is thrown aside, down into the rubble. He turns and he runs, crushing through the houses like a maniac, and he disappears into the smog-filled horizon, filled with images, thoughts of his mother, thoughts of his father, fire, burning trees, and the men he once knew, stripped to crosses. Arvid Vane is no more. The song used in this moment was Be Quiet and Drive, Far Away by Deftones. The song's meaning preaches of being stuck in the same place day after day and being forced to repeat the same thing over and over whilst wanting to get away as far as possible from that place. We can see Arvid Vane was in a similar position, with the constant reminder of the bad omen he brought to every place and person he situated himself around. Unfortunately, he was never able to truly escape his fate. The rest of the party, after this event, then forced the warhorse to retreat and left onwards to Sinol. Now, let me just fill you in really quick about the situation you guys are kind of in. Arvid has the Videti attached to him, so with it gone, you no longer have your strength factor or the ability to keep pushing past the brink of death, which we see the Videti do when it keeps the party alive at the end of the first Meist encounter after he activates his Dahan. So whatever decisions you make now must be with great haste and with the utmost caution. Next arc is going to be amazing, so don't fear. It's also your first real introduction to the world of Mercy and Dios, so expect to hear a lot more about the gods and the nations themselves. Arvid had a complete character arc within this story arc, but not by plot. Simply because of how Costa played him led him to becoming an incredibly strong character, and not just in raw physical strength, but also in thematic strength. There are multiple characters going through arcs right now that are just longer with larger payoffs, so don't fear. However, if you feel your character is too stationary and isn't changing enough, it is simply up to you to make your character change. You cannot wait for the plot to do it for you. For you are your character. Costa is Arvid, Genghis is Bryn, and Ash is Mitchell. Anyways, thank you for an amazing first arc, and I will see your party once again at the gates of Sinol.